How's it going, everyone? This is Kevin. Today I want to bring along with me to talk about how I believe that Sony is the best camera ecosystem currently. So let's jump right into it. I fully want to disclose that I am not a Sony ambassador, nor am I paid by Sony or anything with Sony whatsoever officially. This is just my honest opinion when it comes down to the gear. I used to shoot Canon back when I first started shooting photography. I do have Fuji as well, and obviously I have all my Sony gear. So I wanted to kind of dive into of why I believe that currently Sony is the best ecosystem when it comes down to obtaining camera gear for just the average user all the way to professional when it comes down to the gear that is provided with lenses as well as, well, the cameras. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the cameras. Canon, Nikon, Fuji, all those cameras have really great cameras overall. The specs for the price point relatively compete with one another, and they have really good, cameras, mirrorless mainly now because we've shifted into that realm. And I think they all provide a unique kind of setting when it comes down to their own cameras. For me, Sony has had a lot of good competition when it comes down to the price for the specs and what you're obtaining really with the camera to be able to use for the lenses themselves. But we'll touch on lenses in just a little bit. For me, Sony has had a lot of great opportunities to get into that entry level, APS-C mode with the A6000, which was about $500, all the way now to the A6600 and A7 III to the A7 IV, and all the way to their cinema line cameras. I think Sony has had a really good range when it comes down to bang for your buck when it comes down to the camera bodies themselves, that you're able to really have almost no excuse to get a good camera that shoots 4K, 24 frames, all the way to 60, in all honesty, even from APS-C to full frame now. And that's something that I haven't seen as much from Canon, Nikon, and Fuji, with Fuji not really providing any full frame, but just medium format and APS-C. Nikon kind of trying to dive into that market a little bit more with the APS-C line, having, I think, one of their newest ones that came out, which I don't follow Nikon that much to tell you. And now Canon bringing out their R10 and all that stuff to kind of compete a little bit more in the APS-C realm with Sony. Now, why I believe that Sony has a little bit more of the advantage is just they've had that market share when it comes down to having their APS-C line of cameras that are really well, honestly, appreciated by many, as well as their full frame lineup to their cinema lines. Canon has phenomenal cameras, I won't dispute that whatsoever. The R5, the R5C, now with the R3, and all the other ones are coming out as well, are phenomenal cameras, so you can't really go wrong when it comes down to any of these companies, in my honest opinion. But now, where they differentiate a lot, in my honest opinion, and this is what sets Sony apart from Nikon, from Canon, and even Fuji to a certain degree, because Fuji is a little bit better than Canon in this aspect, but third-party lenses. What makes Sony be so intriguing and just enticing for people to go with, at least it was for me, is seeing that they have third-party lenses that are really great for the amount of money that you're spending into and for the result that you're getting out of. Canon, for some reason, does not want to let up into having those third-party lenses, which to me makes it where they're losing a big market share that Sony has been acquiring over time. I think with that alone, it's just making Sony stand out a little bit more to people because they're not having to only buy a body that could be $2,500 like the Sony A7 IV, instead of having to get those Sony line lenses where it could be like $3,000 for a 70-200, where you can get a 35-150 for about $1,900. That allows the consumer to just really kind of start diversifying their lenses a little bit more, to know what their needs will be with their budget and be able to, get better lenses for themselves without having to only stick with the prime lenses of Sony, the 50 1.2s, or, anything that Canon does with all their RF lenses, that they don't really have any difference if you want to use a Tamron because they don't allow it yet. Hopefully in the future they'll allow it because I think that'll help them out, but that's one of the reasons why I believe Sony has become one of the best ecosystems when it comes down to camera gears. Third-party lenses are a lot of basically the biggest things that comes down to consumers, because not everybody has the budget to drop $2,000 plus every time on a lens, so kind of helps them out quite a bit to maintain that market share. With Sony, you have the Tamron, Samyangs, you got the Sigmas, you got the Rokinon, which is kind of Samyang together, but you get a lot of more of those third-party lenses than just having to get the Sony line. despite that they do have a more entry-level Sony line prime lenses and zoom lenses, you know, versus their G Master lenses, that's also helpful as well. With Canon and Nikon, you don't really have that just yet, so it kind of, you know, affects a lot the consumer when it comes down to it. And at least Fuji has some of the third-party lenses. I mean, you have the Tamron bringing out some great lenses like the 17 to 70, 2.8, when it comes down to even having IBIS now. So that's something that I think is pretty cool. But it does kind of limit you with what you get with the Fuji line, because unless you're shooting with the X-T4 or now the S2H and all those that have like higher specs, it kind of limits you what you can get for what you're investing in. But that's pretty much what I believe makes Sony stand out even more than Canon and Nikon. Just how much of your budget can be allowed to grow your lenses and your body for your cameras and everything, to be able to diversify your setups to have more with the money that you're allotted. I know Canon has a lot of great cameras and they're really great with their color science and everything, but now specs have become a little bit more, not obsolete per se, but they've kind of come down to where it's just a necessity. Now we're just having to see what has better availability when it comes down to lenses, accessories, and everything that it can for your cameras. I do believe that Canon is probably gonna have to either decide if they're gonna really bring in the third-party lens or not, to be able to compete more with the Sony line, since I do see a lot of people switching to Sony, just the same way that I see people switching to Canon. It's not really because one is better than the other totally, but it's because some of them have better opportunities for the other ones, whether it's better lens selection or just camera bodies to a certain degree. It all depends to the user. But for me personally, I do believe that Sony has brought their A+ game, letting third-party lenses bring, you know, more to the table than what Canon and Nikon has been able to do. And that's why I believe it's just the better ecosystem when it comes down to choosing, especially if you're a entry-level kind of consumer to even relatively professional, even to the cinema lines, because you have all the way from the A7 IIIs to A7 IVs to the R versions to the FX versions. And you know, you can kind of dabble a bit and use a lot of good lenses in that medium no matter what. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think Sony has a bigger market share when it comes down to the ecosystem kind of availability for people to choose more, or is it something that doesn't really matter to you? I know a lot of people have their loyalty to some brands, but to me, I don't have any loyalty. I mean, to me, Sony has just provided the best bang for my buck and for what I'm really getting out of each camera and lenses. And so for now, I don't see myself switching whatsoever with how much I've invested into the Sony line and the Tamron lenses for my Sony, but I do kind of want to see if something for you is different. I mean, does it matter having third-party lenses, or are you just only shooting with the lens brand itself, whether it's Sony, Canon, or Nikon? That to me will, you know, help me understand more your thoughts process when it comes down to choosing what you choose for a camera brand. But for me, this is one of the main reasons why I chose Sony. Just having a lot of diversity with lenses has helped me out. But anyways, let me know down below what your favorite ecosystem is and why. Would love to discuss and kind of hear more about it for, you know, my understanding about why you choose certain things. I believe that if you watch some of my videos, you're probably wanting to know more about Sony, but sometimes I'm hoping that you're still watching my content because it has to do with my photography and videography, and, you know, building, you know, friends, everything more like that is something that I value. But let me know down below your thoughts. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.